stay tuned for more rock and roll.
All right. Welcome to the It's Only Rock and Roll podcast. I'm Don 𝗀𝗡𝗃𝗧𝗃, and we've reached another milestone. Episode 20. How the hell did a thing like that happen? And for this special occasion, we've got one of the most legendary drummers of the rock era, a man who started his career at the age of 15, forming the quintessential mod band, the Small Faces, which would later morph into the Faces when, at his insistence, they hired a certain Rod Stewart as lead singer. But many remember him for taking over as drummer for The Who, following Keith Moon's accidental overdose in 1978. Of course, I'm talking about musician and author of the autobiography Let the Good Times Roll, the great Kenny Jones. My guest today is a household name to any fan of rock. As drummer and founding member of the preeminent British invasion mod band The Small Faces, he, alongside Steve Marriott, Ian McLagan, and Ronnie Lane, saw transatlantic success with hits like Lazy Sunday and the classic 𝗀𝗂𝗃𝗧𝗘. Later, a change in frontman to Rod Stewart and a change in band name to The Faces saw more hits like the perennial FM staple Stay With Me. But he may be best known for accepting perhaps the most unenviable job in rock history, replacing the irreplaceable Keith Moon as drummer for The Who, following Moon's accidental overdose in September of 1978. Please welcome to the It's Only Rock and Roll podcast, member of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and author of the autobiography Let the Good Times Roll, one of my drumming heroes, Kenny Jones. Hello, Kenny.
Lovely to meet you.
Pleasure to meet you.
Yes, great to meet you too.
I only have about 13,000 questions for you, and that just goes up to 1970, so let's see how we make out here.
Okay, let's start with one.
I'll start off with the dumbest question. How has this COVID situation affected our 2020 schedule?
It's affected everyone, across England, across Europe, but especially all the musicians, all the drummers in the world, especially over there and over here.
Yeah.
It's really bad times.
I know. Where are you situated right now?
I'm in the deep countryside of Surrey, southern England. It's lovely.
Sounds nice. Well, what was your inspiration to even pick up the drums in the first place?
Well, I was cleaning cars with a friend of mine for pocket money on the weekends and went round one side of the car, threw the sponge, it hit me in the face. It got my attention and he said, I think we should form a skiffle group. I thought, I better find out what this is. I said, what's a skiffle group? He said, well, you get a tea chest and you get a broom handle and you put it in one corner and you get a piece of string and put it to the other corner and you pull it tight and that's what makes a bass sound. I said, okay. Then he said, you get your mum's washing thing and get some thimbles from your gran and stick them on the ends of your fingers and then you go up and down with that washboard. And I thought, this guy's gone mad. He said, I'll tell you what, there's a skiffle group on TV tonight. Let's go and watch it. So I said, okay. So we went to my house and watched this TV. Don't forget, it's in 1959, earlier.
Yeah.
The TVs were black and white, and it looked like looking into an eyeball. Terrible thing.
Yep.
And so, anyway, this band came on. It was a skiffle group. It was a guy called Lonnie Donegan singing Rock on the Line, and he was playing banjo. And I fell in love instantly with the banjo. I thought, this is great. This is great sound. Love it. So I went to the shop. Funny enough, there was a banjo in a pawn shop close to where I lived. And so we went up the next day to try and buy this banjo. And when we got to the shop, the banjo had gone. It had been in the shop for 3 months before. So this day we wanted it, it had gone. So I went inside, I said to the guy, where's the banjo? He said, well, the guy, it's a pawn shop. The guy's paid for it. He's gone. Take it. I said, can you get it back? He went, no, I can't get it back. So we left the shop. And my mate said to me, you're really upset, aren't you? So I said, yeah, I really am. I said, I really wanted that banjo. And don't forget, we had no money. Didn't know how we were going to pay for it anyway. so we were that excited. Don't forget, we were kids.
Right.
I was only like 12 years old. He said, well, look, my mate's got a drum kit. Shall I get him to bring it round this afternoon? I said, yeah, that'd be great. Yeah. So he brought this drum kit round, which turned out to be bits of a drum kit. It was like a floor tom, a bass drum, 2 sticks. One stick was broken in half. And so in those days, my dad was a bit of a part-time carpenter as well in his spare time. So we got this glue, tried to glue this drumstick together. Don't forget, before the days of super glue. Oh, yeah. Trying to glue this thing together for about an hour, 2 hours. We gave up in the end. So I learned to play drums on 1.5 sticks.
And I don't suppose you remember what the brand names were of those.
Made out of wood.
Yeah, wood. There you go. There you go. Well, what was your first kit proper?
Well, when I got into it, I went to a shop called the 𝗀𝗃𝗧𝗘 music shop. It's in East London. I fell in love with this kit. My eye went straight to it. It was a white drum kit. It's an cheap Olympic version of a Premier one.
Yeah.
I've still got that kit to this day.
Really?
I can't believe it.
That's great.
It had calf skins on it. So real skins.
Yeah.
I still got those skins on.
Really?
Wow. Oh, yeah, no, it's great. I learned to play, the only 3 records we had in the house was 12 Street Rag and the theme tune to Rawhide and Blue Moon. So I learned to play drums to those 3 records. 12 Street Rag was great introduction to playing along as far as jazz is concerned.
Did you ever take proper lessons, or was it just all by ear?
No, all by ear. I've never had a lesson in my life.
Really?
Well, I think every drummer should learn. I'm so pleased I did it this way, because I think every drummer should find himself first, find his own style, and then ask questions, and then sort of learn things.
Yeah.
I don't look back.
How did Ronnie Lane come into your life?
Well, I heard about a jazz band locally that were playing in a pub. I went up there on this Friday night, and this guy was playing drums, and I sat in front of him, looking like I was old enough to drink. Of course I wasn't. I was looking like a young boy. Sat in front of him. He started to play, and he was a singing drummer. I've never seen a singing drummer before. He had a Reslow mic coming through his legs in between the snare drum and the drum stool, and so that was interesting. So I watched him for a couple of weeks. And then he came up to me in the break in his set and said to me, "Are you taking the fucking piss out of me?" I said, "What?" I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Well, you keep blinking at me." I said, "Oh, I know why." I said, "Because when you play, you blink, you go like that." And he went, "No, I don't." Oh, God. So we got off on the wrong foot. But then he became really, I got to know him literally a couple of weeks afterwards, and I said to him, "Look, I'm learning how to play drums. I'm looking at what you're doing. So I'm just hoping to pick up stuff."
Yeah.
And then one week I went up there and he said, "Right, we've got a special guest going to come up and play drums tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Another drummer." I thought, great, who's that? Another drummer. I can watch another drummer. And he introduced me. I couldn't believe it. I could not believe it. So shaking like a leaf, I ended up sitting behind his drum kit. And then these 3 guys, they looked like giants, and I sat at the drum stool, all looked down at me. I looked up at them. They seemed like giants. And they said, "Right, here we go. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4." But it sounded to me, because I was so scared, it sounded like 1,
right,
2.
Yeah.
So, but 1, 2, 1, 2. And I was playing jazz straight away. I could not believe it. It's like breaking all ties to the earth, like your umbilical cord is broken.
Yeah.
And that was in heaven. I couldn't believe it first. And I was shaking like a leaf when I got off. Could not believe what I was doing. About 10 minutes later, the barman came up to me and he said, "Kenny, that was really good." He said, I really enjoyed that." He said, "Are you forming a band?" I said, "Yeah, I'm forming a band now." He said, "Oh, look, my brother's just learning to play guitar. He's only bought a guitar 2 weeks ago, so I'll bring him down." So I said, "Yeah, okay." So the next week, in through the door walks Ronnie Lane, his brother.
Oh.
That's how we met.
The bond just came fast musically?
Yeah. Well, straight away, we hit it off straight away.
Yep.
So we formed a band called the 𝗀𝗃𝗃𝗃, and Ronnie Lane was playing lead guitar then, learning how to play guitar. Because he was so learning to play, it was like looking down at the strings and going blink, 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 so it's really weird. So one day he said to me after a couple of weeks, he said, "I don't want to play guitar, Kenny." He said, I want to play bass. I said, "Well, let's go up to the shop where we bought, by chance, he bought his guitar and I bought my drums."
Yeah.
So this is on Saturday morning. We went to the same shop, and this young Herbert came up to us and said, "How can I help you, mate? How can I help you?" And I said, "He wants to buy a bass. He wants to swap his guitar in for a bass." And he said, "Oh, come try this one. I've got a couple of basses you could try." So they went off and tried basses. And then I saw this drum kit out of my corner of my eye. So I sat behind it and I started to play it a little bit. And then this guy, the salesman, picked up a guitar and started to play it. And Ronnie started to play bass. That guy was Steve Marriott.
The salesman?
Yeah. Working part-time on a
geez.
Saturday morning. Because then the shop owner, nearly threw us all out because we were causing havoc in the shop. So that's how we met.
You can't make that shit up.
No, you can't make it up.
It's like it's meant to be.
Well, that's what I keep saying. It was meant to be. We were meant to meet up. Because playing in the Small Faces, it was an amazing experience because we all had this hidden telepathy between us all. I mean, Ronnie Lane, Steve Marriott never told me what to play. I never told them what to play. But yet we all knew exactly what to play. So we ended up forming a band and we ended up building up a following in the London Cavern Club in Leicester Square, the famous Leicester Square in London.
Yeah.
People liked us, so we built up a following over 6 weeks. Because the music industry was so small in those days, the word got around to everybody in the music industry. So Don Arden sent his right-hand man down to talk to us about a guy called Pat Meehan. and said, "We've heard all about you. Don wants to meet you. Would you like to come up to the office in Carnaby Street tomorrow?" And we said, "Oh, okay, fine." So we went up to the office the next day and we met Don Arden.
People probably realize that's Sharon Osbourne's father.
Yeah, that's right. I knew Sharon when she was a little girl. Don Arden was like a big teddy bear, really. He just loved us. And so I'm cutting a long story short again. We ended up in the studio, and that's how we met Glenn Johns. And if anyone don't know who Glenn Johns is a record producer. At that time, he was an engineer. He loved us, we loved him. We got along great in the studio, and we started to record. And that's it. And that's how so we never looked back.
And Glenn Johns developed a rather well-known drum miking technique that everyone talks about famously. Did he employ that with Small Faces?
Well, what he did was, because I said to Glenn a couple of years ago, I said, "How did you get my drum sound?" I said, "Because everyone's asking me, did you mic with 2 overhead mics?" He went, "No, just one."
All that, just one?
Yeah. I said, "Oh, well." I said, "Well, how'd you get my lovely drum sound?" He said, it's you, you silly sod, it's you."
It's true.
Said, what we did was we captured the room sound of an Olympic #1 studio. And so it's an ambient mic. He did close mic the snare.
Yep.
And that's it, really. Everything was over. It's very simple like that, a couple of mics. And that's it. And the rest of it was his tricks he did with it through the mixer.
He must have close mic'd the kick too, no?
Oh, he did, yeah. He might have the kick drum, yeah.
Yeah. Because some of those early records, not you guys, but some of just, standard pop records of the day, there is no kick drum. I mean, you just barely.
Yes, I know. It's awful, terrible. Big empty space there.
Yeah. Actually, one of the first guests that I ever had on this show was 𝗀𝗃𝗃𝗃. And
𝗀𝗃𝗃𝗃, yeah.
He worked with you guys a bit too.
Yeah.
How did working with these people? I mean, you were so young. I mean, I was surprised to learn that the first single you guys had was What You Gonna Do About It?
Yeah.
What were you, 16?
15.
I mean, working with these professionals and taking it on, what was it like? I mean.
Well, you know what? It's like being swept off your feet. I never had time to think or do anything. I just went with the flow. And before I knew it, everyone wanted me to play on their records. So I started doing session work in between making albums with the Faces and working with the Small Faces. Yeah. And that's how I learned a hell of a lot. I ended up playing with big bands and reading music, that sort of thing. Made my own notes. Just learned so much.
Well, one of the things that kind of amazes me is that the Small Faces and the Faces, it's not just a name change. It's not like the Young Rascals to the Rascals. It was basically the same outfit. You guys were literally two different bands in so many ways.
Oh, yeah, big time. We were a great band, and we were playing all the great stuff because our influences were like Booker T and the MGs and Jimmy McGriff and, that sort of stuff. Ray Charles and all that. So we ended up jamming all the stuff, playing on that kind of feel. That's what we wanted to be known for. But of course, the record companies wanted another commercial hit record. And we found ourselves behind a trend of commercial records, and we could never lose this teeny bopper image we had.
Yeah.
We all got fed up with it, really. But one day it got to Steve more than anybody else, and he decided to walk off stage, and that was it, and leave us there, which is a bit alarming and kind of very hurtful.
Yeah, I can imagine.
It was like losing a brother, It's kind of strange because when you've done so much together, we were only together for about nearly 5 years, and we've done so much stuff together. So for one of us to walk away was a terrible experience.
Rather than just, sticking together and saying, hey, we'll just do what we want, and maybe,
But we never went to America like the Who did, If we'd have got a chance to go to America, I don't think we'd have split up.
Now, you're responsible for getting Rod in the band, Rod Stewart. Yeah. Tell me that story.
The story of that was we were quite friendly with the Stones, and the Stones said, "Why are you looking for a new direction? We've got a warehouse where we keep all our stuff in there. We've got a soundproof room in the East End of London, a guy in 𝗵𝘃𝗶𝗁, just over Tower Bridge." I said, "Why don't you go and hang out in there, do some jamming in there, play, whatever." So we did. Very kind of him. So after 2 or 3 weeks, me, Ronnie and Steve were playing, and then suddenly we realised that Ronnie Lane brought down his new next-door neighbour, and that was Ronnie Wood. Oh. Ronnie was, at that time, was playing with the Jeff Beck Band. Right. He was playing bass with the Jeff Beck Band.
Yep.
And so Ronnie said, I'm just converting to guitar. I want to play guitar, lead guitar. I don't want to play bass. It's the opposite of Ronnie Lane.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
So Ronnie was learning to convert to guitar. We were always jamming all the time, which was a fantastic experience.
Boy, did he convert.
Oh, yeah, no. And then suddenly, next week, Ronnie brought down his best mate, and that happened to be Rod Stewart, who was also singing in the Jeff Beck Band. They're both on a wage of £60 a week each.
Now, had the Truth album come out at that point?
I'm not sure, to be honest. I'm not sure.
So did you know who Rod Stewart was as an entity? Or?
Oh, yeah, because he was also trying to get a record deal with Andrew Oldham. So we used to pass each other on the stairs. I knew what a great voice he had. So Rod would sit on the amps waiting for us to have a break so we go up the pub and have a drink. And this went on for a couple of weeks. I said, look, we've got to take this seriously, guys. We've got to, start learning some songs and singing. So Max started to sing. I went, okay, great, yeah. But then don't forget the drummer can see everything that goes on.
Sure.
Ronnie Wood started to sing. I went, yeah, okay, right, lovely. And then Ronnie Lane sang, and he had Ronnie had a great voice, lovely warm voice. But still there was that bit missing for me, that raw sound of a bit, raucous singer.
Right.
And all the time, whilst this was going on, I kept looking at Rod sitting on the amps. So we had a break later on, and we went up the pub. So as soon as we walked in the pub, I said, Rod, can I have a word with you? I went round the other. I said, how would you like to join the band? He said, oh, do you think everyone would let me? I went, yeah, of course they would. So that evening, we went back by chance. Alvin Lee, the Alvin.
Yeah, 10 years after.
Yeah, he was having a little drinks party in London, behind Harley Street. That's when I said to everybody, can I have a private word to everyone? So, four of us went upstairs. Rob was still downstairs. I said, look, I've asked Rod to join the band. And all I got was, no, we don't want another prima donna in the band. We don't want anyone walking out of this. So I just stood my ground. I said, no, I think Rod's going to be great for the band, basically. I stood my ground. That's how Rod started to sing with us.
I missed, unfortunately, the heyday. But from the shows that I can see on video, you guys were fun, raucous.
Oh, yeah.
Soulful, no sloppy train wrecks, yet loose in a beautiful way. And a few soccer balls would make an appearance mid-show sometimes too.
It's called alcohol.
But see, now that's the thing. You guys were known for hard drinking, yet you and Ronnie's rhythm section, so solid, so on the money. Did you ever have any issues, getting pissed on beer?
The only issue I had was if I couldn't get any beer.
Oh, there you go.
Brandy, I can't drink brandy anymore because Brandy and I used to... We all drank brandy and cokes in those days, brandy and ginger.
Yeah.
And sort of wine and stuff. But it was great. So I think my liver will never be the same. I don't think Rod's liver will never be the same, nor Ronnie Wood's. But the great thing about it was we all got along so well. And it's like another adventure, another sort of moment of discovery. And we were discovering each other. So it was a great band. I mean, did you know, it's hard to think, this year's our 50th anniversary.
Wow.
Incredible. 50 years ago.
Shit. And I bet to you it just feels like yesterday.
Yeah, kind of, yeah. Because, I mean, even though the faces split up again after a while, all of us still get together 2 or 3 times a year and cause havoc in any pub or restaurant we go to.
That's awesome.
We got back together to do a TV show with the London Philharmonic Orchestra this year in February. And afterwards, we decided that we would get together and do it to celebrate our 50th anniversary. We would do a tour of America. And it worked out we couldn't do it till 21 anyway.
Rod's going to be part of that and everything?
Well, the thing is, we decided to do it, but then, of course, the virus happened.
Yeah.
Everything's on hold, everything. So we'll do something to celebrate our 50th anniversary. So what we've been working on, the 3 of us, is searching our vaults, our archives for tapes. Between Ronnie and I and Rod, we found some incredible old tapes of when we first got together.
That's awesome.
So we've been working on it. So watch this space. We're going to be coming out with some great stuff.
One more question about the Faces, and then we'll move on. Band members, especially lead singers, going off to do solo projects can be a real bone of contention. It's broken up a lot of bands.
Yeah.
Rod Stewart in those early days kind of ran a parallel recording career with the Faces. You played on most of his albums.
I'm not sure. I'm on bits of everything. I've forgotten what I'm on now.
I had to go check. You were definitely on the first 4. How did that not become an issue?
Well, because basically, I mean, we had no egos and all that. But what it was when we first got together, we did a deal with Warner Brothers, right? Warner Brothers wanted to sign us, so we said, okay. Then we found that Rod had already signed a deal with Mercury Records, not for very much money either. We said, okay, just so happens that the boss of Mercury Records and the boss of Warner Brothers were great mates, so we worked out something between us. Because they said, well, look, as long as Rod can still have a solo album, and we promised them 1 live album, Mercury Records. And then we were about to sign the deal, and I looked down on the contract, and it said, Small Faces.
What?
Not signed. Yeah, I said, hang on, we're not signed, we're not the Small Faces. I said, we can't be called the Small Faces, we're a completely different band. They said, well, you can't have all this money then. So we said, okay, I'll tell you what, we'll call ourselves the Small Faces for this album, the first album, But thereafter, there's nothing small about us, so we're going to shorten it to the Faces. That's how we got the name Faces. So it worked out beautifully.
A lot of people may not know you are playing drums on the great Rolling Stones track, It's Only Rock and Roll, but I like it.
Yes, by accident.
You, Willie Weeks on bass, I think?
Yeah.
Ronnie Wood, David Bowie was part of that too.
Yeah, everyone came in and out. So
yeah.
When I was in the Faces, Ronnie Wood bought a house down in the basement. Funny enough, Pete Townsend lives in it now. And so it's kind of weird. I could never lose the house. And so Ronnie Wood built a studio downstairs, and we all lived around Richmond Park. So Ronnie would always call me as soon as I got 1 foot into bed, one leg into bed.
Right.
And he'd say, "Kenny, we haven't got a drummer." Oh, and I said, "Oh, no, okay." So I'll be right over Ronnie. I gave Ronnie a drum kit and left it in the studio.
Yeah.
Worst thing I ever did. So then I found myself on the other side of the park. One day you go round there, Eric Clapton will be down there, and we just all play. And next week, Bob Dylan will be there, someone else will be there, someone else. This particular time, I went round the park. Of course, I had a few before, so I didn't want to bump into any policemen, so it was a nerve-wracking experience.
Yeah.
So I got to Richmond Gate, where I lived on Robin Hood Gate, he lived on Richmond Gate. And so I parked the car, went in. This particular time, Jagger was there. Me, Ronnie Wood and Mick Jagger. So in the studio, and we're playing around, we're messing around. It was me and Jagger just playing away. And Ronnie had a load of new outboard recording equipment. So he was in and out of the studio all the time.
Yeah.
So, and he had to work it. We had no engineer. He had to work it as well. So Jagger and I were just playing at this riff, like and it was ended up being It's Only Rock and Roll, but I like it because basically we're playing away, and Jagger said to me, "Kenny, play it like that." I said, "It's too late. I'm going to play it like this." I said, "Anyway, it's only rock and roll." And he said, "But I like it."
Ah.
Any rock and roll, but I like it. So ended up being Ronnie recorded it, and later on he came in and put a bass on the guitar, and that was it. What I found was they took it to the studio as a demo to re-record it.
Yeah.
And then what I'm told is they couldn't capture the feel. So they just kept myself on drums and the original track. Then I found out it was going to be a single. So I immediately called Charlie up. I said, "Charlie, I can't believe I just found out It's Only Rock and Roll, but I like it. It was me on drums." I said, "I'm really sorry. I never meant that to happen." He said, "Don't worry, Ken." He said, "It sounds like me anyway."
It does. It really does. That's the funny thing.
So I said, "Well, I did have you in mind." That's how it happened. It happened by accident.
Drum sounds. I'm a drummer. I'm 49, and I'm still looking for that perfect snare drum sound.
We always will be.
Yeah.
We always will be. That will never leave us.
Well, what is your perfect sound? What tonal qualities do you try to achieve with the kits you own?
Well, funny enough, when I said earlier, I've still got the first kit I played on. Well, that left me for a while. I never knew what happened to it after I moved on with drums and stuff. Apparently, I gave it to Ronnie Lane's best mate, who moved to Cornwall in England, and I never saw it again. And so about 3 or 4 years ago, this guy called up and said, "My dad's Ronnie Lane's best mate, and he's got your drum kit. He's asked me if you want it back." I said, "Oh, bloody right, yeah." He said, "If you make a donation to Ronnie Lane's multiple sclerosis, I'll bring it down, you can have it." So I said, "Of course, that's no problem." So he ended up bringing it down. The van doors open, and there was my drum kit. I could not believe it hadn't been touched at all since I left it. Been in his wardrobe.
Oh my God.
What I noticed though was, don't forget, I've been for all different snares by this time.
Yeah.
As well. And the snare I had on my original drum kit was a piccolo.
Yep.
I didn't realise it was a piccolo. I'd forgotten all about it. So I use a piccolo to this day. I love a piccolo. I use I've got, the black beauties, the big deep ones, all kinds of stuff, different shapes and sizes. But the piccolo for me captures the crack, the moment.
If you had a piccolo on Face Dancers, it would have been a totally different sound.
Oh yeah.
When I was 13, I remember I bought this beautiful picture book, and it was The Who, Maximum R&B, had all these great photos in it. There was a haunting photo of you talking to Keith Moon the night before he passed at Paul and Linda's party for the Buddy Holly story screening, I think.
That's right.
Tell me a little bit of the backstory behind that.
Well, Glyn Johns and I were putting together a band, half American, half English. We got a huge advance for it. We were just about to sign. And it was a great band. It was kind of meeting up of like half Eagles, half rock and roll, London rock and roll.
Yeah.
And so I'd just gone back from America with the other half of the American side of the band. I came straight from the airport into Paul McCartney was having a premiere of the Buddy Holly film. The thing was, the after party when you go and see a premiere?
Yeah.
Well, he had the party before the film. A place called Peppermint Park. We had sitting there having dinner, having a drink, go around the table, having the drinks, gone over. On my table was Paul and Linda, David Frost before he was a star, Paul's brother who's in the scaffold, and
Mike McGear,
and Keith. And Keith and I were talking drums, and he said, how you been, Kenny? I said, great. I told him all about my trip to America and God knows what. I said, how you been? He said, oh, it's great. So I've been off the booze, drugs, everything, the lot. I said, well, you look good, Keith. You look great. He said, yeah, no, it's great. I take these pills, he said. If I take these pills, I can't drink. If I have a drink, it makes me violently ill. So there you go. Don't go drinking then. I said, no, I can't. No way. And then we found ourselves all walking en masse round the corner to the Odeon in Leicester Square to watch the film. So we all watched the film, and then it was about, I don't know, 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning. We came out and said goodbye to each other, said goodbye to Keith. See her. I went back to my house, crashed like because I had that jet lag, crashed, and then woke up the next morning. You know, always when you wake up, you turn the TV on, don't you?
Of course.
Turn the TV on. And went straight to the news, and it was like, Keith Moon was found dead last night as a drug overdose. I went, no. I said, what's he pulled now?
Yeah.
It can't be true. It's like nuts. He's done something stupid. And sure enough, he was true, you know. It's only when I joined her, I found out afterwards exactly what happened. What happened was he left that premiere, all said goodnight to each other. He went off to his flat, took his evening dose before he goes to bed of the pills he was taking, went to sleep, woke up a couple of hours later, I thought it was morning, took his morning pill. You can't take these pills too close together, you see.
Yeah.
And it was enough to slow his heart down.
Yeah, that's...
So that's how he died.
It's an accident.
Technically, it was a drug overdose, but it wasn't not intentional.
No, because the media always tries to play it up as something nefarious.
And of course they do, yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Mind you, I think the way John Entwistle went out was fantastic. He was staying in the Hard Rock Hotel.
Yep.
With a hooker, cocaine round him. God knows what. I thought, great. What a way to go. No, I thought I laughed so much. I mean, I cried so much, but I also laughed so much.
I know. Now you got the call to join the Who, and it was your quote where you said, you knew it would be a tough gig, but you didn't count on the emotional bit.
Well, the thing was, I mean, before I joined the Who, I had this band I was putting together with Glyn Johns and stuff. My head was in that space, you know.
Right.
I got a call from 𝗀𝗶𝗁𝗁, the Who's manager. He said, oh, Kenny, he said, I'll come straight to the point. The Who have had a meeting. Don't forget, Keith's only been dead a couple of months, you know. And he said, the Who have had a meeting and they want you to join the band. They're not considering anyone else. I said, well, thank you very much for the compliment. I said, that's very kind of you. I said, but I can't. He went, what? I could hear his jaw drop. I said, what do you mean you can't? I said, I can't. I told him, I've got another band I'm putting together with Glyn Johns, and we're just about to sign a record deal. He said, well, look, I'll tell you what. He said, Pete's coming into the office a bit later. Come in and have a chat with Pete. I said, I'm always happy to talk to Pete, because Pete and I used to work together a lot. And so that evening I went and I met with Pete. We talked about the good old days of touring together with the Small Faces and the Who, touring Australia, touring Europe, touring England, just laughing for a couple of hours. Then suddenly Pete went, just got home and said, Kenny, you've got to join the band. You're a mod. You're one of us, So I thought, over we go. And so I said, I'll tell you what, Pete. I said, the band I'm forming is actually in London today, just staying down the road. I said, I'll go and see them on the way home and just put it to them and see what they say. So I went, talked to the rest of the band. I said, look, I'll come straight to the point again. I said, I've been asked to join the Who. And they said, oh, Kenny, you've got to do it. It was so gracious about it.
Oh, man.
They said, you've got to do it. I said, well, I've got to do this as well. And they said, no, you've got to do that. You must do this. So that's how I ended up joining the Who.
Did that other transatlantic band end up getting off the ground at all?
No, it didn't. It tried to, but it never went far. When I joined the Who, I said, look, I am not going to copy Keith Moon. It's impossible to copy Keith Moon. Keith's got his own style. He's a man in his own right. And I respect his drumming, and that's it. I said, I'm a completely different drummer. I said, I'm a lot straighter, a bit tighter, and I play a different way. But I do like some of the fills he does. I said, and I love the opportunity just to play them. I'll try and compliment Keith as much as I can, but, I'm completely different. I said, okay, great. Pete said to me, now, because Keith's no longer with us, we have a chance to do something completely different. And that's helped me make up my mind.
Sure.
So we're not actually going to go back to being, the Who all the time. Of course, we never did anything completely different. We ended up playing the same thing because that's what all the fans are. So I found myself chucked in at the deep end. It's funny enough, towards the end now, I kind of find the penny suddenly dropped and I really got into it and I started to enjoy it.
I mean, you can hear it on the records. The Who became a very, I don't want to say tight, because it sounds like I'm insulting Keith Moon. Moon it's physically impossible to copy Keith Moon, first of all.
Well, yes, right. Well, I think Pete sums him up. When we played, Keith would go all over the place, go somewhere else, all over the place. But he would go anywhere, but always come back in time.
Right.
So, well, that's Keith, isn't it? You know, the nearest I got to playing like Keith Moon or feeling out like how Keith would be in his shoes was when we were playing Madison Square Garden. Pete turns around and said, "We're going to do a new number, right? We're going to do it." I thought, "What's that? I haven't even rehearsed it. What is it?" And suddenly Pete announced Sparks. We're going to play Sparks. Like ba 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 da 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 ba. And I went, "Shit!" So I said, "Pete," and he went, "Just follow me." So I played with Pete, just following him, and it was great to play. I've got to say, it was so exciting to play, and not knowing what I was doing. Chuck me in the deep end.
How hard was that first tour?
We found ourselves promoting 𝗀𝗲𝗶𝗵𝗵, the film, and The Kids Are All Right. They're both films that came out almost identically at times.
Yeah.
We were doing lots of PR and stuff like that, and then found the first tour was good, you know. Then we had the terrible tragedy in Cincinnati.
I usually, at the end of the show, I like to have like a lighthearted thing. What's your worst gig? What's your best gig? But there's nothing funny or lighthearted about your worst gig, which I would imagine would be 1979 in Cincinnati.
When that terrible tragedy happened in Cincinnati, it felt cold on stage. Because usually you see people you know on the side of the stage and whatever. This time, everyone disappeared. Well, it was really strange. And they all playing away, and we were playing. Something was not right, I felt, in that particular gig. And so when we stopped, we came off stage, and our manager, 𝗀𝗶𝗁𝗃, said, "No encore, come straight off, straight to the dressing room." And we went straight to the dressing room. And then he said, "Look," he said, 11 kids died tonight." We went, "Fuck, oh God." You know that moment of shock? The whole room filled up with water.
Yeah.
And he was still talking, and suddenly I felt it to subside, and then, "Oh shit, I can't believe this has happened. I can't believe it." So none of us knew why. We were told briefly that, you know, the promoter, these kids arrived late, got off the bus, and we struck up the first song. And so they all heard us play, and they went through the doors and down the stairs. One fell over, the other one fell over, and they fell down the stairs.
They only had like 2 of the 10 or whatever many doors opened.
Yeah, funny enough. And also, we took out double insurance, or 𝗀𝗶𝗁𝗃, our manager, took out double insurance to make sure that didn't happen. All the doors should be open. The promoter closed the doors.
The thing that I resent, I live in a city right over from Providence, Rhode Island. And Providence, our mayor, in his infinite wisdom at the time, was the first mayor to cancel the show. And it seemed like the media liked to blame the band or blame. There was zero blame.
We had to go back and give evidence and all that. That was another nerve-wracking experience.
That's what I was going to ask you.
Well, because everyone was suing it. You know, it's typical American. You know, everyone sues everybody. You know?
Yeah.
But I've got to say, the families they just lost their loved ones, and they wrote some wonderful letters to us saying, you know, they don't hold us responsible at all. No, but we weren't responsible.
Of course.
It will never leave us. It will never leave me. It will never leave any one of us in the band.
When you listen to certain songs, are there any tracks where you go, "Oh, man, I wish I could re-record that. I don't like the sound. I don't like what I played"?
No, I think, to be honest, mostly we were pretty much on it. I think that one of the gigs we did, which I found a little bit stiff, was when we were asked to do the gig in Toronto, and we played the first ever simulcast. So we played live across the world to everybody.
You mean the last show, the farewell tour?
Yeah, that's right. And I thought, I've got a super glue drumsticks to my hands. I don't want to drop one. So nerve-wracking experience. We played tighter than we normally would. It's still a good gig.
That was the first time I ever heard you guys. That night, very first. I said, because it was such a happening. I sat at the radio. It was all simulcast. Yeah. And I said, I got to listen to this. It's a tight gig. I mean, there's...
It's tight gig, yeah.
Live Aid. That one seemed tense. Am I wrong?
The whole day was a little bit like that. To be honest, we were only given 20 minutes to play, each band. And also, they had a set of traffic lights on stage. I don't know if you know this. They had a set of traffic lights each side of the stage, like red, green, amber.
Right.
And so they said, we'll give you the amber one, then the green one, or the whatever. So, and the red one means stop. I mean, we mean stop, obviously, pulling the plug. So that was a bit of a tense moment. Trying to end a song, you're going nuts all over it.
You know, we didn't see the first 2 songs.
There's certain moments in the Who where you can't buy these certain moments. As Pete's got to, "Why don't you fade away?" The fucking satellite blew up.
Yep.
And we literally faded away for about 2 minutes.
You know how pissed I was?
Yeah, why not?
Rick Springfield's set was fine. The satellites worked perfect.
Yeah.
But you guys, the one I was waiting for all day? No.
The other time it happened was when we were doing Rain on Me in Buffalo in the stadium. We were playing away and Roger's singing out, Rain on Me, getting to the big crescendo. And suddenly the heavens opened up and a shitload of rain came down, all soaking wet. And because it was quite windy, blowing on stage. And I started laughing. I thought, you can't buy these moments.
No, you can't. No, you can't.
Buy them.
Your health. From what I understand, you're doing great.
Yeah.
Talk about that a little bit.
Well, I just learned to fly a helicopter, believe it or not, and I went to get my medical for the helicopter pilot license as well. Just got my license. I never believed it. The name of this guy, the doctor. The name of the doctor was Dr. Trump.
Oh God.
Trump's a bad word, man.
Wow. So
Dr. Trump said to me, he kept looking at me because he said, "What band do you play with?" I said, "The Who." He said, "Hearing test." I said, "Okay, right." So I press a button every time I heard the beep, so beep, beep, and I press the button.
Yeah.
Of course, it's a rhythm, isn't it? So I kept doing it. I kept pressing it even when I couldn't hear it. He came back and he said, "I've got to say, you have exceptional hearing." I said, "Pardon?" So he came over and said, I came and touched my throat and felt my neck and all that. For it's got to be part of the thing, whatever. He said, "Does it hurt there?" I said, "No." He said, "I'll just call the nurse in." Nurse came in. He said to the nurse, "Do you see any difference between this side of Mr. Jones' neck on the other?" And she said, "Oh, yes, doctor, that side of his neck's too big." Bigger than the other. I said, "What's going on?" He said, "Look," he said, "whatever you do," he said, "don't panic. It's only because I'm a doctor and my whole family's been plagued with thyroid problems. So I automatically, as a doctor, go straight to that part of the body."
Sure.
He said, "I'm going to give you a note to take to your doctor. I think you should get checked out straight away." Now I am panicking. So luckily I got Dr. White's and I went straight in there, past the reception, straight up. He had someone with him in his surgery. I said, "Get rid of her." She said, "Look at this." I said, "She's only got a cold. Look at that." He said, "You can't come first in the night." I said, "Yeah." So anyway, it all calmed down. And so he sent me to a specialist. This is funny as well. When you're sort of a professor or someone high up, you become a mister. Yeah. You're no longer a doctor, you're a mister. Okay. So Mr. 𝗀𝗶𝗁𝗃, his name was. He sent me off to have a scan, and that afternoon I went straight back again. When you're in a waiting room, these terrible Victorian waiting rooms, high ceilings, and you start looking at other people around who are waiting in there. Oh, that lady looks like she's got nothing wrong with her. That one looks like she's definitely got cancer or something like that. Something wrong with that one. Talking to myself, and suddenly I found myself in the doctor's room. He was just writing on a desk. He didn't look up at all. I'm sitting there. He said, "Okay, so I think it's not very good news." I said, "What's that?" He said, "I'm afraid you have an adenoma." I said, "Oh, thank God for that. I thought I had cancer." And he just kept looking at me. He kept looking at me and staring at me. So I said, "What's an adenoma?" He said, "Cancer." He said, "You have a lump in your throat, 4 centimetres, size of a small-boiled egg." I said, "You're joking." He kept talking about the consequences of cancer and all that. And he said, we need to operate straight away." Well, the whole room filled up with water again. In shock. Suddenly he kept talking and I could hear him this time. And as the water just subsided.
Yeah.
I said, "Well, I'm going away to Florida." He said, I said, "Can you do the operation when I come back?" He said, "No." He said, "Let me put it this way. If you were my son, I'd have you in tomorrow." I said, "Right, I'm now adopted. I'm coming in tomorrow."
Yeah. And
that's it. And waking up in the morning with my throat cut, with a tube going in one end, another tube going in the other end.
Yeah.
And I couldn't move my hands to do anything. The only thing that took my mind off it was this nurse. This nurse came in, Irish nurse. She had the biggest tits I've ever seen. I thought, great. So I found myself, I couldn't piss. I couldn't have a wee because apparently the drip that gives you all the painkillers was running too fast.
Yeah.
So they slowed that down. And I had the best piss of my life. It was great. So I got over that then that was it. So when I got prostate cancer in 2014, many years later, it wasn't scary for me. I was concerned, but not scary. I mean,
because you'd been through it, you came out the other end. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd had the shock. I called it early. So to viewers, you're not viewers, listeners, I can still get hard on.
There you go.
Done.
Yeah.
I can do rim shots with my knob. Fucking hurts, though. There you go. So, all I can say to everybody is please get a PSA check, your prostate check. Literally, it's when you're about 35, 40 years old, start getting one every year, then every 6 months. Just keep checking it because it's one of the biggest killers on the planet.
What's on the horizon? What's next?
Well, apart from doing the faces stuff, I've been raising lots of funds, money over the years for prostate cancer, and had some great fun musically doing it. I've got my own band called the Jones Gang. Funny enough, when we had a hit called Angel, #1 hit in America, it must be going over 12 years ago now.
Yep.
So that was great fun to do. I've still got the band together, and I'm playing all the time.
I'm going to make sure that we plug the book.
Oh, the book, yeah.
All right.
Good times, well.
See what you did there? I get it. Yeah. I got it. Very clever. Featuring Kenny Jones on drums from 1982. That's The Who with It's Hard. And I want to thank Kenny Jones for taking the time to talk with us on the It's Only Rock and Roll podcast. And don't forget to check out his autobiography, Let the Good Times Roll, available on Amazon. And just check out our show notes for the link to that and his website. And visit us online at www.itsonlyrockandrollpodcast.